Welcome to Love and Law, episode 28. I'm Tessie and Charles here again. Today we're going to be discussing ego and how that affects the relationship as far as communication, as far as entrepreneurship in our family, and even sometimes how it spills over into parenting. Ego, as defined by Google, ego is the conscious mind representing a person's sense of self-worth, identity, and rational decision making. Some of the key definitions and usage examples are self-identity, conscious mind, the part of the psyche that experiences the outside world and acts. The I, self-esteem, self-worth, the individual's person perception of their own importance. So, ego in a partnership, in the power struggle. Sometimes there's that dynamic there that ego says I have to be right, and at the point that someone in the relationship has to lose for you to win, then the marriage is already in a bad place because your ego is preventing you from compromising or hearing the other person. So, I guess I would say that that's just one way that ego can affect in our dynamic. If I propose an idea, but the ego is, and I'm not saying that this is you, but I'm saying ego is I have to be the spotlight or I have to be the focal point, and it's not about the focal point, it's about the business. How do you navigate through that of, okay, this is a good opportunity and I don't necessarily need to be the main character.
That's our son's favorite tagline. You're not the main character. I think for me, not always being right was a difficult transition to not always be right, whether it was parenting, career, the firm, anything that was going to affect me. I felt like it needed to come from me. I think largely the way that I grew up, I had to be in control of things around me to make sure that I was safe, to make sure that I was okay. And I sort of developed in a way that if I did it, I knew I was in control and I wouldn't blame anybody else. So I grew up kind of developed this sense of it had to be me to be right. I had to do it in order to make sure that it was right, because if you did it and it was wrong, I had the consequences of you not doing it. And if I did it, I knew it was going to be right because I knew I was going to take the time to do the thing that needed to be done for myself. And so I think that kind of created, I don't know that it created an ego, but it absolutely created a strong desire in me to be right. And I argued to be right, even if it was on a nuance thing, that it didn't really matter if it was a right or wrong. And that was something that I've worked hard at undoing, still work at undoing my need to be right and opening my thought process to more of collaboration.
So would you say then the fix now is more on alignment instead of needing to be right?
Well, for me, it's two different things, because we can develop alignment that this is the goal that we're going to do, and we agree, and I can still need to be right on how we do that thing. I mean, for me, it really is two different things. You and I are aligned that we're going to have this podcast, and we are aligned that we're going to do this, this project, and we're going to do this thing. But when it comes to the ins and out of how, when, and the details, I have a strong desire to be in control of how we do things, especially if I don't feel that you or whoever else involved in the process take it as seriously as I do, which is a conflict that you and I have a lot. If I feel like I'm putting in the effort to learn it and study it and be prepared for the moment or whatever we're doing, and I don't feel like you're putting in that same effort, it's harder for me to kind of acquiesce and say, okay, well, what are your thoughts on it? If I feel like my effort is a 10 and your effort is a 2, I have a hard time with us sitting down, having a conversation, and both having equal input if I don't feel like we put in both equal effort. And a lot of times my focus was on, regardless if it was parenting, it doesn't even have to be you. It could be whatever I was doing. It could be me and Daryl. We've had conversations before where it was hard for me to hear what he was saying because I, in my desire to be right and my need to be right, felt like, well, Daryl, I have a stronger understanding of what I want to do. And so I felt like I needed to be in control of how it was done. And I think my life just have gotten easier, particularly in the last couple of years, with understanding that I don't have to know or do it the way that I wanted it done. It can be done the way he suggested or wanted to do it, and we can still get to the same space. And the same is true of even working with you. But I still struggle with whether it's an ego as much as it is a desire to be right.
So is it an issue of it? So it needs to be right. Is there a difference between needing to be right and needing to be done? Meaning I can get it done, but if I get it done my way, does that mean it's not right?
It depends on what it is, but I don't know that getting it done is any different. It's the need to get it done is very different than the need to get to be right. It's two different things. So I don't understand your point.
So, example, if I have cases that need to be filed and I have to do an entry of appearance, a leave of absence, and discovery, as long as I get these 3 envelopes mailed out the correct place, everything on the documents are correct. You say it has to be done in A, B, and C in this order, but I do it in C, B, A. I'm getting it done, but because I didn't do it in the order that you said, does that then it's not right?
It depends on what it is. And oftentimes, me and you had a conversation, an argument, and this is part of that building a brand. This is when we first had our law firm, when we first opened the doors, and it was Charles and I back to back. I'm the lawyer, you were the receptionist, and all the things in between, and he was helping with a lot of the legal stuff. And there was an argument back and forth, and to me, it felt like you were trying to fill your place. What is my role? Stop telling me what to do. However, if it was I need your help with these things, we would have what felt like to me unnecessary arguments about how it needed to be done. It felt to me like you were doing it as a power play. Well, why do I have to do it the way that you're saying? And it didn't even need to be an argument. Just could you do these 1, 2, 3 things? And what it really was an entry of appearance, a leave of absence, and a letter to the clerk. Because then it wasn't electronic filing, you had to mail it. So there was a letter, and I wanted them all done and put in there. There was never discovery. You didn't do discovery, but this is an entry of appearance on some of the criminal cases you may have. But all of these are templates, basic documents. Put them all in and get them out. And it wasn't a matter of I needed to be right or it needed to be done. It was both. They needed to be done right and they needed to be done. I don't know. The thing, what I have been told before is that I am intimidating. And to me, that's not an ego. An ego, to me, is me being self-absorbed. But I think there are other words that are stronger to describe me. Controlling is one, but I don't think that it's based in ego. My personality of being controlling is something that I'm truly working on, whether it's our marriage, business, parenting, whatever, just my own day-to-day life and walk. My need to be controlling really comes from a place of fear, of not being able to gauge what happens, what's going to happen. The older I get and the longer I live, I realize that I really don't have any control. It's a higher power. It's a thing between Jesus and I as to what happens in my life, and that's a growing journey for myself. But me being controlling is me trying to prevent things happening to me and around me that I don't want to happen. And so it comes across as controlling when I'm really hard on people around me or people in that I care about. It's me trying to prevent them, foolishly trying to prevent them from what I think may harm them.
And see, even when we, I guess, talk about ego, I guess my struggle is I don't consider myself to have ego. I think it's more of a mindset thing, because as we go through different workshops and they're like, oh, you need to be in first class and you need to expect that. And that kind of, to me, appears for somebody that may have an ego issue. I don't have to be in first class. Like, it's nice, but I only expect the best. That's not something that's important to me. And when, friends have said, we you go in a room and there may be an air about yourself. Well, that's because you don't know me, and I'm just trying to keep to myself and maybe not being seen. It's not because I have an ego, but I think if you get to know me and you talk to me, it's not. It's nah. He's not an egotistical person. It's not a big ego. Now, maybe the kids may say, somewhat, you have an ego because you have to be right. But after you get to a certain age, I don't have to be right. I'll talk to you about it, and if as I'm evolving as a parent, I try to talk to you about it and hear your point of view and not let, I guess, the ego of I'm a parent and you have to do it my way. Well, how do you suggest it's done? So I don't know. The more money we make, I feel like at times I've gotten even frugaler. So I'll spend still
Frugaler.
frugaler. That's
More
right.
frugal.
I done made a new word, so you gotta Google it. But I'm just saying, yeah, there's the things that I would have splurged on before. Not if I could afford it, but if there was money there to buy it, mindset wise, I have to work on that. But it hasn't changed. So I don't, the ego thing is just something that now in some of my friends, I could say, oh, you started making a certain amount of money and you act like yo don't stink, and you still the same person that sits on the toilet the same way.
See, that's very different for me, and I agree. It's not an ego thing, but for me, I don't have a problem asking for what I want and getting what I want. I'm gonna sit in first class every time. If it's available, I'm sitting in first class, not because I think I'm better than anybody else, but if I'm working very hard and I want to sit in first class because I'm tired, because I work a lot, because I want the comfort of first class, I want a wider seat, I want a nicer drink and a nicer snack, and I want to get on first and sit down. If I want to get off first and not fight the crowd, then I'm willing to pay for that comfort. And I don't think that it implies that I think I'm better than someone else. It's just, again, it's the mindset. If I want nicer clothes and I'm gonna work for it and it don't hurt anybody else to have it, then I'm gonna get that. If I want a nicer house, a nicer car, I do not believe that me wanting nicer things and working for nicer things means that I have an ego. It
Agreed.
does not mean that I think I'm better than anybody else at all. But I'm also not going to not have the finer things that I work for or want and feel any kind of way about having them because I am sitting in first class with nice clothes and nice shoes and drive a nice car. I absolutely work and do things that most people won't do, so that I can live the way that most people don't want to live. I don't know that people want to live this way or do want to live the way that I live. It's not my concern. But I'm willing to do what most won't so that I can live the way that most can't. If I want to sit in first class, I'm willing to work the extra work to sit in first class. A lot of people won't. If I want to drive my X7, which I love to drive, I'm going to work hard so that I can drive that. And when we go to Africa for 2 weeks, I loved the trip. I loved driving, riding, what was it called? The lay flat all the way there. 14-hour flight. Oh, that was nice. But I worked my butt off to be able to go there, fly there in the style that I wanted to, enjoy anything I wanted to do while I got there. Could I have done that 20 years ago? No. There's levels to this. It's not like, okay, at 20 years old, and I have to remind our kids that all the time. You're comparing yourself to me, and you're 25, and I'm 52. If we live in the same lifestyle at 25 and 52, then I'm doing something wrong. At this big old grown age in my life, I should be able to have some of the finer things if I desire them because I put in my time and work and sacrifice to have them. I don't think that's an ego.
So you think people get ego and work ethic confused? Do you think that sometimes that happens? Because I have
I
the
don't
work
think they have
ethic and I
anything to
have
do with
these
each other.
things.
I don't think they have anything to do with each other. Work ethic and ego. I think someone that has an ego, for me, I think someone that has an ego I know a lot of broke people, poor people that have a huge ego. They have a huge ego. It has nothing to do with money. That's what I'm saying. These connections to you make money, or you have a bad attitude because you make money. I know a lot of people that ain't got no money and have a terrible attitude and have a horrible ego. And you don't have any money. I don't think the two are connected. But this thing that I used to feel that ego and intimidation were the same. Keith Gamage, near and dear to my heart, told me this. And I've said this 1,000 times. When he said that I was intimidating, and the first time he told me that, I was insulted because to me it resonated like I have an ego. You're intimidating. And he said, sis, I don't mean that to be a negative thing at all. What it means, like you say, this, I don't know if this is what you mean, but this air. But when you walk in the room, people will notice. You're a beautiful woman that know what you're talking about, and you have this walk like you mean business. And as a trial attorney, because we were both assistant solicitors then, we were both prosecutors then, when you come to court, you're ready to argue, you're prepared, and it can be intimidating to people that are watching you because they need to level up. Because if Tessie's handling her cases this way, and she comes prepared, and she looks this way, and she's handling her business, to other people around you who may slouch, when you walk into the room, they have to level up, and that can be intimidating to people.
So you didn't have.
I take it as a compliment now.
So you don't think when you went into court, you had a level of, I'm about to drag you.
That's not ego.
What is it?
That was just me. I like to argue.
I'm just saying, but if you
it wasn't an ego. I did not come in thinking that I was better than the opposing attorney.
I didn't say that.
But you said it. Is that a level of ego?
Okay, so then this is level of confidence that I'm gonna be successful. Is that considered ego? Would that be considered ego?
No. Why is it a negative thing for me to be confident?
That's the next question.
Preparedness leads to confidence. I'm not confident if I walk into a courtroom and I haven't prepared my case. I haven't prepared my clients, my witnesses. I'm not walking in confident. I'm walking in confident because I've done the work to be successful in this case and in this hearing. I'm confident because of the work that I did, not because of how I look, not because of how I sound, not because of the bounce in my step. I could be wrong as rain walking into a courtroom and I still have the same walk and the same look and the same tone of my voice. One of the things that I've realized as I've gotten older, the thing that I used to hate, my very deep voice. I mean, you've been in the car with me. I'll go through the drive-thru and order some coffee at Starbucks. And they're like, anything else, sir? I don't even correct people anymore. I'm like, nope, that's it. And they get to the window like, I'm so sorry. It's not even worth me correcting people about my voice. But I think because I'm a Southerner and I talk fast, and because I have a deeper voice than most women, my voice commands people's attention. It's not because I did anything particular, but if I'm talking loud and it's deep, most people will look simply because of how I sound. And I'm a little argumentative on top of it, so it leads itself to a very commanding audience when I'm arguing in court.
Does ego always have to be a negative thing?
Well, I think it depends on how you present it.
Because it almost seems like as we talk about this, ego could be swag. So, hey, I'm coming into but I'm coming in with the certain air, with the swag, like we're going to get it done. And it almost, as we talk about this more, it seems like normally when what comes with ego is a negative connotation when that may not always be the case. Because you can have some ego. Look, I want you to have ego that you're going to win. Like I
think for me, the turn is when you really think that you're better than other people not for no reason, but you think that you're better than people. Like arrogance and ego is the same thing. And I don't think that because you have swag, you come across with an ego. For me, it is. An arrogant person is an egotistical person, and it's not a positive thing. Somebody that I admire, the Obamas. Barack got swag. Michelle is confident. They're both brilliant people that walk with a certain air, confidence, poise, grace, all of that. And I've never thought that either one of them present themselves as having an ego. At all. They don't seem to have an ego. They have confidence. And I think that they've prepared themselves well to do what they have done for this country and in their lives and stuff. I just think that the way that they prepare themselves for whatever is in front of them comes across as very confident, and the swag is always on point, and her clothes and the way that, like, she is someone that I just look up to in so many ways. But I've never thought that she was an arrogant person. There are people that I believe have an ego, and even when we're at work and we have clients that come in, and it's very different when someone comes in and you have a huge ego. You know the word that kind of goes tongue in cheek with big egos now? The new tag word for it is narcissistic. Well, when you have someone that comes in, and there's people that come into our office to retain us, and some hoping to retain, and for different blessings, we don't link up together. But you have some people that come in and they really come in, and the whole downfall of the marriage was the other person's fault. And they did this and they didn't do this, and I made this and I had this and I contributed this, and the whole conversation is about how great they were, how horrible the other person was, and how everything is that person's fault. And the whole time the conversation that they are having, it's almost in a monologue, like they forget that you're in the room and we're talking about what your options are for the dissolution of this relationship or whatever it is that we're talking about. But the ego that they somehow owed you something because you, like, if we're talking to men and you were the primary or the only financial source for your family, I made this and I paid the bills, and the way that you speak about your wife as if she owes you her undying love and gratitude because you paid the mortgage and she didn't work a day in 15 years. I understand that. But in the relationship, her part was not to bring in the finances. She kept the house and cooked the meals and took care of the children, and you never did a load of laundry in that time, or you never took the child to these appointments. You don't see and appreciate the other person's side in it, but you feel like you are somehow more elevated than your spouse or the person you're talking to or the room of people that you're entering into because of something that you've done sets me apart and somehow higher than the other person is how I see an ego. So if you were to walk into our marriage and feel like you are better or superior because you're paying all of the bills and I'm doing all of these things, and therefore what you say is beyond contestation because you're paying all the bills and all of these things. Charles tried to tell me that all the time, that what he says is beyond contestation. Side note.
It is.
Not. So I think that that is how I see an ego, is when people feel like you're better than someone else because of your status or something that you do. You have, when we travel and we're in different places, I see an air, as you call it, of Americans that think, well, I'm an American and you're in this less developed country. And I can have an ego and I walk somewhere and I don't treat you as a human with dignity because I'm an American and you're in a less developed country, or I'm treating you a different way because we're in the Dominican and you have a house that doesn't have electricity or something. Like, you're not financially stable. And so I treat you different or with less respect because I have more than you. And so I don't even respect you as a human. That is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about your ego and how you are elevated and have this air about yourself, even if just to not give another human a level of decency because you believe that you're better than them, not like in a competitive way. If we're in a sport, I'm supposed to believe I'm better than you. I'm coming in to slay. Same thing in a courtroom. But if I'm in this relationship and I think that I'm better than you because my shoes are nicer than your shoes, or because I'm an attorney and you're not, and I feel like I'm better than you and I act like you owe me something because I'm the attorney and I'm smart. That's what I'm just saying when it comes to ego. There's a lot of subjects that you are farly more knowledgeable about than I am. Law is not one of them. But my goodness, law is just one.
I mean, I guess in our experiences, we've seen there are different types of egos, but there needs to be a balance. in making sure that your, I guess, self-worth doesn't impede on other people's self-esteem, and that it comes from a positive place. And again, trying to be the best you, hopefully, um, it comes off. It just doesn't come off as brazen. I don't really know another way to explain that.
But I just think in our friends and in colleagues, whether it's parenting or in our professional life, making sure that you believe in yourself without imposing negative thoughts or beliefs on other people and harming other people. You can have confidence in yourself and have goals and dreams for yourself and faith in yourself without being arrogant. But I do think that you have to have a high esteem for yourself to get where it is that hopefully you want to be. And so I try to instill that in my children to believe in themselves. And when we're talking to clients and guiding them, same thing. It all starts in your mind, and attitude is everything. So you need to have a positive attitude and therefore a high esteem and a good ego mindset for yourself. So,
Well said.
well, again, as we didn't mention earlier, but we did talk about in our last episode, 27, we're kind of still going through this name change thing. So we're going to be having an answer very soon about whether we're going to be able to keep this name or whether we're going to transition to a different name. Gotten a couple of
Something that
ideas.
speaks to ego, that represents our positive side of that.
Something. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure this out. But again, in the next episode or two, we're going to be talking about these ideas with our children. So you guys are going to get to meet the crew very soon. Maybe in 2 episodes from now, you'll get to meet some of the kids. And some of these lessons that we've been talking about in the preceding 27 episodes, you will see how they have come to fruition and the little humans that we've helped guide along the way, i.e. our kids.
And their perspective on what it looks like. We have ours, but, their perspective is obviously their reality. So they'll tell you our hits and our misses.
So like, love, subscribe, follow, share, all those things. And we will see you on the next episode.